Good evening, everybody. I would like to call on the chairman to take the first item.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for attending this Community Services Committee. I'd like to proceed with agenda item 1, which is the election of chairman for the ensuing year. May I know your wishes?
Chairman, yes, I would like to propose Councillor Grottick as the chairman for the forthcoming year. Very briefly, I think we have some challenging times ahead, and I think that in the next few months it is vital to have continuity of the chairmanship of this committee. Councillor Grottick has served as the...
Councillor Billsborough, thank you. I think we've understood. I don't think we need to get into the habit of giving huge speeches at the beginning of these. We normally just announce the person and...
No, I'm not...
We don't want any free speech.
In the election address, I'm simply pointing out Councillor Grottick's experience as the acting chairman of the committee over the past, since February, and just one or two points where I believe she would make an excellent chairman.
Well, would you make them fairly brief? Because despite what Councillor Mrs Bennett suggests, I don't mind free speech, but I am conscious we've got quite a long agenda that we do need to get on with. So
well,
if you could be fairly brief, please.
I defer to your ruling. I don't think 2 minutes would have made a difference, but that's your ruling. I'll abide by it.
Thank you.
I'll second that proposal.
Right, thank you, Mrs Bennett. Councillor Sims.
I'd like to propose Councillor Mrs Mumford.
Right, thank you.
I'll keep it as brief as that.
Thank you very much. Is that seconded?
I'll second.
When you, if you could put your light on, that was a great help because it picks it up on the microphone.
I'll
Thank
second
you.
that.
Are there any further nominations? No? In that case, I'll take them in the order that I've received these votes. So those in favour of Councillor Mrs Grottick, please show clearly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Thank you.
That's it.
Right, how many are we round the table? Or those, well, let's be sure. Those in favour of Councillor Mrs Mumford, please show clearly. Thank you. I would like my vote recorded, please. Councillor Mrs Grottick, you've been elected.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. This committee has got some challenging times ahead, and I will be very grateful for everyone's help. Thank you. Chairman.
I want to come in on election item 2, please.
Yes, indeed. Are you to take that item?
No, I'm waiting for you to.
Yes, of course. I was just going to express my thanks to my colleagues, that was all. Moving on to item 2, if I could take nominations for the Vice Chair for the ensuing year.
Chairman, I propose Councillor Daly because I think an off-island representation ought to be in that job.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Are there any other nominations, Chairman?
Well, as you know, I was waiting to come in, so I propose Councillor Sims. I think this is a very challenging year, and we need somebody with the breadth of knowledge of the financial problems we are going through at the moment.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder?
I'll second that.
Fine. Then again, I will take the nominations in the order that they were received. If I could have a show of hands in support of Councillor Daly for the Vice Chair of this committee for the following year, please. Thank you. And now for Councillor Sims, please. Councillor Sims, would you like to join me?
I'd just like to say something before we go on. I have to go to the town hall no later than 7:45 to put in another stellar performance. So I was just wondering if, with the permission of the chair, if we could perhaps alter the order of this a little bit. Certainly buzzer bus is fine because I've got to leave the room on that. But if perhaps we could do the housing stock and the services business plan as the next two items, and then if I'm here for anything after that, fine. Those are the two I would particularly like to be here for.
Fine, so you would like us to take the social housing stock, number 10, and followed by the
business plan.
business plan,
Where are we?
8.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, no problem. Take declarations of interest, please. Councillor Peacock. Thank you. Councillor Bilsborough.
My wife is a part-time tutor, very part-time tutor at Lifelong Learning.
Thank you. Councillor Bennett.
Declare non-registrable interest as a member of the shadow governing body of RCHD.
Thank you.
And I have at least a notional pecuniary interest regarding the buzzer bus, so if I'm still here at that point, I will leave the room, though I suspect I won't be here anyway.
Fine. Agenda item 4, the minutes of the previous meeting, pages 1 to 14. To confirm the accuracy of the draft minutes of the Community Services Committee of the 16th of February.
I have read these, Chairman, and I propose they're a true record of the meeting.
Second.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman. Is everyone happy with that? Thank you. The minutes are approved. If we could take urgent items now, and Councillor Daly would like to give us an update on his representation with the Cornwall Partnership Trust.
Thank you, Chairman. This would normally be given to the council, but it would be too late for this date then. Barbara Van, who is the chair of the Cornwall Partnership NHS Trust, will be visiting Scilly on the 21st of July and would like to talk to as many people as possible while she's here. I don't know what sort of programme is being arranged, but it was really just to let everybody know that she will be here then and would like to talk to people. 21st of July.
Thank you. Moving on to part 1 and item 6, the appointment of community representatives to this committee. We are able to have 2, and we are fortunate enough to have 2 members or 2 prospective members of this committee. Chairman.
I'd like to nominate Mrs. Rainey Gay and Dr. Roy Barnes for those positions, please.
Thank you. Thank you. Could everyone show their approval of that, please? Thank you. Dr. Barnes, would you be good enough to join us? And thank you so much. Before I proceed with the rest of the meeting, I would also just like to thank my colleague who is sadly not able to be with us this evening, Councillor Richard McCarthy, the previous chair of this committee, who has been a long-standing chair of this committee and has obviously served this committee well. I can only say they are very large shoes to fill, and I shall do my best. I'm happy if we just take the actions, or would you prefer to carry straight on? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I think as the Vice Chair has an appointment treading the boards, and I have to say I recommend the play in the Pink to everyone. I went last night and it was excellent. With everyone's acquiescence, we shall move to agenda item 8, the Community Services Business Plan. Does anyone have any issues with that? No. Good. In that event, can we move to page 19, please? The report of the Senior Manager services to our community.
Thank you, Chairman. I think this is self-explanatory. We do this every year, and we try to monitor performance against it at every committee meeting. Obviously, lots of the areas of work are similar to last year because that's our stock in trade. So basically, I would like to take questions on specific actions at this stage. If I could just say I'm glad to see 3.2 on Objective 3, 3.2, the work with strategic development to pursue the lifetime housing options, because obviously that is going to be a key area of work which we will try and progress in tandem with the options analysis into elder care. Councillor Peacock.
All we've been told by both ERDF and ESF is that we have to continue as normal, keep going with our progress on our various projects, both ESF and ERDF, keep making the application process. Projects will go forward to endorsement to the ITI board, but they're holding off at the moment on signing contracts. But how long that will be, we have no idea. We haven't been told anything else. It's a bit too early to... Yeah, but that's what we've been told by the managing authorities.
Just to maybe add a little bit to that. I mean, the LEP actually, they put a press release out last week essentially saying that they're going to carry on regardless, and if Europe doesn't cut off, they're going to demand it off this fairly amorphous, non-existent Brexit government. And in the background of the email was actually relatively positive as well, not part of the press release, which I can't really go into, but I would say broadly they were quite positive, though on the other hand less happy than perhaps they could be.
Yes, Chairman, their website this morning is sort of quite questioning where the 546 million destined originally for Cornwall and the Isles of Scilly over the until 2020 is going to come from.
Thank you, Councillor Bennett. It is a concern, is it not? Councillor Bilsborough.
Chairman, yes, on page 20, paragraph 4.4, bullet point 2, about opportunities for better learning. I know my wife is a very part-time tutor, but I'm just going to ask the question. It says, supporting strong local economy by creating opportunities for a better learning. I presume then that there's going to be no reduction in the lifelong learning stuff. Is that yes or no?
I don't think that's kind of what we're raising here. I don't think we can assume anything currently in the light of financial constraints and a savings plan that members have signed up to. Okay. But I don't think this is the place to predict anything about job losses.
Right, and also, Chairman, a number of these, it says existing budgets, etc., etc. Are any of these going to fail, perhaps, because we will not get money from outside that we thought we might get?
Potentially, and I think that was the conversation we just had about the risk around ESF delivery. And obviously, Lifelong Learning Team has been very skilled at accessing that funding in the past. But if it doesn't exist, we'll just have to see how that pans out. But we're only a week in, and if I knew that, then I'd be more skilled than most people in government right now. So
I thought you'd say that. You're quite...
I think I might be.
Chairman, I apologise, you had your light on.
I've heard the moment has now passed, but I was about to join in with the item then, which we were talking about the future of European funding or not. As far as I'm aware, government has said that until such time as Article 50 is invoked, then we do have to push for the funding. As usual, we will certainly be contributing to Europe until then, so it is up to us to make sure that we do push for as much as possible until such a time as that is invoked.
Thank you. I know you've been very active in watching the situation very carefully, and obviously we all hope that the situation will proceed in a way that we would wish. Thank you.
One more point, Chairman. On page 24 of the plan, if you go on to that and you go on to 1.4, support community safety, etc., etc., if you look in the time scale, it says February 2016. Is this because it has happened, or should it be 2017?
You really do.
Well, I do read this report, yes.
That's our error.
It's 2017?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Can I just quickly mention at 9.1, Objective 9, 9.1, there's a list of the health promotion campaign. I think it might be worth mentioning that we do actually have quite an active support service for people who have problems with alcohol and substance use, and I believe that's probably might be a good idea to perhaps add it to that list. That was all.
Yeah.
Has anyone anything further they would like to add?
Yes, Chairman. Yes, having read this, and because of perhaps some of the uncertainties, I think at the moment I would sooner recommend that members note the programme as accept. This has not been derogatory to what's been said, but I don't think we can approve something that where there's outstanding details to sort out, and therefore I propose that we note the etc. etc.
Chairman.
I will propose the original recommendation that we approve this.
Right. Right, we seem to have two proposals on the table. Councillor Billsborough would wish to change the word approve to note.
Yes.
Is there a seconder for that
Yes,
motion?
I'll second that.
And Councillor Daly will second it. And then the chairman would wish for the original wording to stand, and the vice chairman will second that. So can we start in the order that they were put on the table, which please could you show your approval of members noting the 16-17 communities?
Chairman, with due respect, they were proposed and seconded in the order that we follow the original representation. The seconder for the noting came after the seconder for the proposal.
Chairman, is the chairman of the council saying that even though I made that proposal, it's taken second?
Chairman, I really don't wish to argue with you, but I was at a meeting where advice was sought, and the chairman was instructed by the administration officer to take the proposals in the order that they were tabled. So may I ask for advice?
I had understood that it was proposed and seconded, but leave it if you want to go with that way.
With your permission and approval, hopefully, I will ask for advice. Mr. Thomas, could you help us?
I would think in terms of dotting I's and crossing T's that you should have a seconder to an amendment
Yes,
or
my
a proposal
understanding was I
before it
have
goes
two
forward.
proposals and they have both been seconded.
It really doesn't matter, this is going to hold us up too long, but I was just making the point that my proposal was seconded before the other one. Take it in the order you please.
On a technicality, I do see what you mean, Chairman. Right. The first proposal we will take then will be that members approve the 16-17 Community Services Business Plan. Please show. 1, 2, 6. Secondly, could members show if they would prefer to note the 2016 to 2017 Community Services Plan, Business Plan. 1, 2, 3. The existing wording remains.
Can I just make a very brief point? We would, certainly not just this committee, but lots of council committees, we seem to be having a habit of actually avoiding decisions that perhaps we don't necessarily want to make on the basis that we don't like them, really. And I think it's not. We actually need to be positive and proactively going forward at the moment, particularly after the events of last week. I'm being polite there. I just think it's bad form us constantly going into semantics about accepting or noting, when the recommendation here is to approve, and I think that is the correct recommendation.
Chairman, does it strike Councillor Sims that members may have good reason for making this recommendation? That's all I'll say now.
Rarely, Councillor Bisborough.
Councillor Daly.
I just wanted to say, Chairman, that as this was a proposal put forward in the paper, the amendment to note it should have been taken first because it's an amendment to the proposal, and then the whole proposal should have been voted on second.
Thank you. I
don't follow that at all.
I shall certainly try and educate myself further after this meeting. Right, thank you. Now, with everyone's acceptance, we will move to item 10 in order to facilitate the Vice Chair's wishes.
Thank you very much. This is for approval of activity under the capital programme that's already, and the mid-term financial plan that's already been placed before members. The report and the various detailed annexes explain the various projects that are under consideration, and they are repairs and maintenance and refurbishment to Longgrass, which is our property along Church Road, the properties at Sallyport, Museum Flats and Strand. I nearly forgot the Strand, I'm very sorry. And much funding towards the energy efficiency work to our social housing. The ERDF, High Touch have included into their ERDF bid. So we're getting £1 million worth of work for £195,000 of our own money. This is not a planning committee, so it's not about discussing plans and the colour of the paintwork, which is nowhere near as virulent as turned up in the report, but is rather about discussing the principle of investing our money in our housing stock. The projects include external insulation where we can't do internal insulation, so that's the properties at Sallyport and Museum, so that we can make our homes more energy efficient and a lot more warmer. And general repairs, maintenance, which will go alongside work we intend to do internally around kitchens, bathrooms, LED lighting and heating systems. The entire package of works is $915,000 over 3 financial years. Most of the work will be planned to do through the winter. There will be lots of negotiation to be done, not least with the leaseholders who have 2 of the flats in Museum, which will make that a more complex project, and that will mean some money will come back into the coffers because leaseholders can be charged for the works done on their properties. And this will hopefully make our homes warmer, drier, more pleasant to live in, more attractive, and improve the lives of the tenants who live inside of them.
Councillor Coombs, perhaps, will you excuse me, shall we move to Councillor Coombs while you sort your lighting out, Councillor Bilsborough? And then I believe the Chairman was also waiting to speak.
Energy efficiency, absolutely fantastic, support it wholeheartedly. The one area that seems to be sort of missing at the moment is water. We're increasingly relying on desalination to produce our drinking water, which we then flush down the toilet and use in our washing machines. Above ground rainwater harvesting is totally achievable, affordable, and will save us a lot of money in terms of energy. So I would suggest that we do look closely at having rainwater harvesting as part of these projects. The other thing, which is I don't mind constantly telling people where the Sallyport is up in Sallyport, but my one plea is that as part of the refurbishments of Sallyport, we actually get a sign down by the road so you can actually find your way up to the Sallyport.
Thank you. We'll look at that. As we've discussed previously, rainwater harvesting is an area we want to look at, so I'll include some systems within these projects. We've got a very healthy contingency in these. These are maximum. We've got about a 20% contingency, so there will be funding within this envelope to do rainwater harvesting. Chairman.
Yes, thank you. I welcome this. I think it's long overdue, very, very necessary. And for the sake of our tenants, we have to get on with this and approve these investments. So with that in mind, I'm going to propose the recommendation.
Can we just have a moment to find if Councillor Bilsborough would like to make a comment when he can find a functioning light, please?
Thank you, Chairman, yes. If you could turn on to page 39, paragraph 1.3, and it talks about the funding for this. And if we read the last two lines, it says about the ERDF programme, it is likely to be a significant delay and a possibility that it will not go ahead in the form envisaged.
That was a separate project just for energy efficiency in housing. Yeah. So if you read the entire thing, and I'm sorry if it hasn't been clear, but I took a paper to Community Services about energy efficiency in social housing, which was for us to bid directly to ERDF for these same elements of work. But because of a change in the outputs targets for ERDF, Hitachi have put this project into their bid. So they're taking the risk, doing the project management and doing everything else, and their bid is already in the process.
Okay, so is this particular item, is it part of the larger Smart Islands project?
Yes.
It is. So it will, in the end, depend upon funding for the Smart
Yes,
Islands?
it will depend upon ERDF funding.
Okay. Well, thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. I was also just going to quickly note that we also might have a problem with 1.9, but we're in a situation where we really can't obviously halt. We just have to move forward positively, do we not? Councillor Daly, the Chairman has proposed, would you like to propose that we accept the recommendation?
I have another question before we
Yes,
move
would you
on.
just like to?
Page 42 and 43, it says financial implications, but it doesn't say where the money is coming from. I know where it's going to, but I'd like to know where it's coming from, and I'd like that to be in a report that I read.
Sorry, I'm sorry this isn't clear. It's in the capital programme. The money's coming from the housing reserve, which has got 1.6 million in it, which is made up from tenants' rents.
Yes, well, it'd be very simple to put that in the report.
Yeah, I'm very sorry. That was a complete, I think I put it elsewhere, but not in that section.
Councillor Bennett.
Thank you, Jim. I'd like to second the proposal, but I just find it, I have to comment that it was only in 2013 that the Decent Homes project was completed, and that was a 10-year project, and it was meant to cover all the kitchens and bathrooms, amongst other things, required in the housing stock in the 108. And it just seems amazing that already we're faced with such a major programme of works required when those of us who worked over those 10 years on that project.
Decent Homes didn't do the external of the buildings.
No.
What we've got now is roofs and chimneys and external.
But you talked of kitchens
But
and bathrooms.
those are an ongoing programme of works, and under Decent Homes, you could either have your bathroom or your kitchen. So it meant that for many people, they had a kitchen done, which now means that their bathroom needs to be done. And as we all know, at home, bathrooms and kitchens have to be done on probably a 10 to 20 year cycle. And as people age, their changes, their needs change. For example, wet rooms and things like that.
10 years? Where do you live?
In Duchy housing.
Sorry, apologies that we're laughing. We were just sort of thinking wish for fulfilment.
Maybe a bit nicer than that.
Your light is still on, Councillor Bennett. Have you actually finished your comments?
Oh, yes, thank you.
I just...
Oh, sorry.
Thank you. Right, we have...
I mean,
I beg your pardon.
chairs never see the vice chair's light, unfortunately, I've found. All I just wanted to make the point was, really, irrespective of the funding, we haven't got a great deal of choice in a lot of this, because the EPC regs, if we don't get the houses up to those specs, we can't re-let them, and I think, is it 2020? After that, you just have to turf everybody out and put them somewhere else, essentially.
No, at 2018, we can't re-let any property with an EPC under an E. We've got about 20% of our stock that is under an E. An awful lot of our stock is just at E. If the regulations are changed, that will put that stock at risk. And by 2020, we can't rent property which is at and below an E. So at that point, we can't rent it, let alone re-let it. So that is a risk for us moving forward.
Right, thank you for that clarification. And also, of course, we've got the problems of the housing bill, but obviously this is not an appropriate time to discuss that now. The recommendation on agenda item 10 is to approve the investments. Can we have may I know your wishes on that now? The recommendation is passed.
Like normal order now. Sorry about that. It's unnecessary. I said, sorry, it's unnecessary for me to change it. I didn't know how to go.
Sorry. If we could now take agenda item 7, please, everybody, which is a review of actions emanating from the previous minutes. Joel Williams.
Thank you, Chairman. Members will recall at the last meeting a significant part of the discussions focused on the Park House options appraisal, and the verbal update is on the agenda this evening. There was also significant discussion about the service plan, which we've already picked up on this evening. The housing update was also on the agenda last time and has just been discussed, and members have had an opportunity to catch up on that. Other discussions focused on budget setting and fees and charges, both of which went to full council and were approved subsequently to the Community Services Committee meeting.
Thank you.
Chairman, I propose we accept the recommendation to note these recommendations as recommended.
Seconded.
Thank you. May I know your wishes, please? Thank you. The recommendation is passed. Moving on to agenda item 9, Growing Old on Silly Options Appraisal Update, which is a verbal update from Ashlyn, the report of the Senior Manager Services to our committee. Community, sorry.
I'm going to keep this very brief because I think I've been boring everybody rigid with endless emails on this subject. But just to let you know, we put the options appraisal brief out to the market. We therefore appointed a company called 5 Square. It's a husband and wife team, Naomi and Andy Ibbs, who have significant experience in the health and social care sector, both in designing services but also managing health estates. They, as you know, given the interest in this subject and lots of kind of sensitivity around it, we wanted the consultation to be really good. So that's what they started with, is talking to the community. So we went to every single off-island, and we had some events on St Mary's. And I think we've had between 80 to 100 people attend. On St Mary's, there were 50. I think the morning session was really lively. I, as an officer, did not go because I felt it was really important that the community could be honest and didn't feel that they had to say that my services were oh so very good. So I think we've got lots of honesty out there. I've offered every single elected member an opportunity to have a one-to-one conversation, which lots of you have taken up. And now basically it's the time for Naomi to start pulling all that together. We're sending out a questionnaire, I think on Friday, to all households to give us some kind of data to assess kind of future levels of need. She's talking to all relevant stakeholders on the mainland, both in the commissioning and provider side. She's met lots and lots of people on Scilly, the doctors, the hospital staff, healthy living staff, faith groups, and then she needs to pull that together in the options appraisal that we've requested, and that's going to, a first draft of that will come to full council on the 2nd of August. So yeah, I think it's going to be a really good report.
Councillor Beresford. Thank you, Ashley. Councillor
Yes, one question, and I'm not going to bang on about it now, but if you want me to, if you wish me to, if you've got time to spare, seriously, on the 2nd of August, will we have more opportunity and more facts and information on the possibility of sending for people who need intensive care being sent over to the mainland? Will that subject be discussed?
Well, the brief was to do a full options appraisal. So of some of the options we have discussed, isn't it, is what are the pros and cons of mainland placement. So that should be detailed in the report.
Thank you.
Chairman, I could just add to that, to the officer's report, in that the consultants did meet with the Cornwall NHS Partnership Trust as part of their, and that was reported at the NH Trust meeting.
I think just to finish, the full options analysis will, I'm sure, be very full, and we will have a great deal of detail put in front of us. But then it will obviously be for members to discuss and for members to decide the way forward. And it will be a very heavy responsibility, but I am sure that we will have a lot more information before we are in the position of having to make that decision. So I'm looking forward to receiving it, and then obviously we will have full discussions before we decide any way forward. Thank you. Have you anything to add, Ashley?
Not at this stage.
Would anyone else like to say anything? Right. If we could then move on to item 11, which is the buzzer bus dial-a-ride service. Speak to you later. Joe Williams again.
Thank you, Chairman. Members will be very aware of the buzzer bus service, which has proved very popular over the past 5 or 6 years or so. Over the last 14 months, over 11,500 journeys have been undertaken by the service, which regularly provides the needs for 200 or 300 members of our community. Most of these journeys are aimed at improving the health, lifestyle, and decreasing isolation for some of our more vulnerable members of the community. There have, however, been challenges faced recently with the reliability of the vehicle. It's a service which is provided in partnership between the Council and Cornwall and Isles of Scilly Age UK, and we've had regular discussions to try and resolve some of these issues. But I think we would like to look at sort of taking a medium-term to long-term solution forward, which could involve the purchasing of a new vehicle. We're looking to improve the reliability and resilience of the service, and that will potentially mean the disposal of the current vehicle, which is owned by the local authority. And that's another of the issues where we've got some services which are local authority responsibility, and some are the Cornwall and Isles of Scilly HUK's responsibility. So I think as we move forward, we'd like to look at a more joined up service where there's less confusion about who's responsible for what. So I see this report being the first part of the journey to unpick some of the confusion, create some clarification, and as I said, try to create a more reliable and a resilient service going forward.
Chairman. Yes, thank you. I wish to support this recommendation, to propose it indeed. This is a vital service, or has become a vital service for our community. I think one doesn't spend much time on St Mary's talking to people without the buzzer bus and the huge merits of its driver coming into, and I would like once again to pay tribute to Mr Maybury and what he does for his passengers. They sing his praises for as long as anybody will sit and listen to him. This is keeping our elderly community mobile. It's keeping them reassured that they can travel in and out of town easily. And I do know that the driver goes always the extra mile to help them. It's a vital service, and one whose praise, of which the praises I couldn't sing loudly enough.
Absolutely. Councillor Daly.
Chairman, this is a vital service, and I echo everything the Chairman of the Council says. And I'm just looking for an obvious reassurance there'll be no interruption of the service as far as the users are concerned during all this changeover.
I think if we're being honest, there has been some disruption to service users already. The current vehicle is wheelchair accessible, but that's not performing reliably at the moment, so a substitute vehicle is being used currently which isn't so accessible for wheelchair users. So again, that's part of our proposal to try and move forward. The substitute vehicle, which is a minibus, has been providing services for about 6 months, and there's no indication that won't continue. But I think certainly for wheelchair users, they would like a more reliable service sooner rather than later.
If you just...
Thank you for
sorry,
that.
Councillor Day.
Just to say thank you for that.
Oh, thank you. If I could just say one thing, Councillor Coombs, before you join the conversation. If I could just say we can't micromanage, can we? But I would like to think that the specification for the new vehicle, if at all possible, was shown to our main garage to ask if they had the facilities to be able to maintain it, so that we don't have to get an engineer from Glasgow, which obviously is difficult. Ashley.
Sorry,
and then, yeah, sorry, I thought this was part of the same. Yeah, Councillor Coombs.
Absolutely support the buzzer bus in terms of looking forward in ever declining budgets and the fact that we're already running a substitute vehicle. Will this business case look at the possibility of a shared service where a vehicle at some point in the day is a taxi and at other points in the day is the buzzer bus? Is that within the scope of this work?
Joel, do you want me to take? I think the key thing here is we're procuring a service, we're not procuring a vehicle. So we're asking interested parties to provide X number of journeys to X number of people and to give us reassurance on reliability and what their backup plans are. How would they access a spare vehicle? How will they get it fixed? And what's your price? And to be honest, how they choose to deliver that is up to them. And we can give certain weightings to things like sustainability, both financially, energy-wise and so on. But I think the thing is, we're asking them to deliver a set of services. So I don't think we'll have anything to do with how they use their vehicle at other times, what it will look like, what colour. I think it's absolutely about the quality of the service. And that's where we missed the trick when it was procured last time. We kind of bought a bus here, we found a garage there, and AGK got the driver. And I think we've learnt a lot over the last 5 or 6 years, and it's a great service. And I think absolutely, there's lots of financial uncertainty, but I don't think any of us have the guts to say we're not going to support buzzer bus. To be frank.
Absolutely not. Councillor Mumford.
Yes, I also support this, but the new vehicle, no, you're going to put it out to tender, aren't you? Will the people be told that it must be wheelchair friendly?
Yes.
Councillor Bilsbury.
Yes, Chairman. Chairman, when this was being discussed, 2009, 2010, I was not on this committee at the time. Anyway, I sent an email from holiday expressing my misgivings about having an electric vehicle for this. Now, I know electric vehicles are green and all that, but I was expressing misgivings, A, upon the cost of maintenance and replacing batteries, and for the use it was going to be put, would it be reliable? The facts speak for themselves. So what I'm asking, are we going to have an electric vehicle or a petrol-driven vehicle?
As I say, we are not commissioning a type of vehicle. We're commissioning a service. And if a provider can provide us with their ideas for a vehicle that deliver that, and whether that's a rickshaw or rollerblades, I don't really mind. They just need to evidence that it will work. I don't think you can make blanket statements about electric vehicle technology. Lots of people have smaller vehicles on the islands which are electric, working very well. We do have, I believe it's one of a kind. The buzzer bus we have here, there aren't that many, and I think it was probably piloted too quickly. But we are not specifying to the provider what type of vehicle, but we will have some kind of assessment against how sustainable that the technology they're using is. And I think that would be an important thing, I think, given our responsibilities as a public sector body.
Okay, yes. Well, as long as we compare the cost of maintenance of the two vehicles, you know, of the petrol type and the battery type.
That's the cost of the provider. All right. They will bear all of that, so they need to make sure it works well.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
Right. Thank you. I'm sure the provider is absolutely well aware of all the problems that we've had, and I'm sure we'll be moving forward on that basis, will we not? Yeah. The recommendation is that members support the production of the business case to inform the re-procurement of the buzzer bus dial-a-ride service. May I know your wishes on that matter, please? Councillor Bennett, you've proposed that we accept the recommendation?
I think you'll find I did...
Yes, I'm sorry, I've got ahead of myself. Chairman.
I think you'll find I proposed it when I led in with the remarks on this.
Thank you. And is everyone in agreement? Yes, indeed. Yeah. Fine. We are now doubly sure that we are going to support the buzzer bus service. There can surely be no harm in that. Right. Moving on to item number 12, the outcomes from the matrix assessment. John.
Thank you, Chairman. This report is designed to bring members up to date with an external inspection that took place of a lifelong learning service in April of this year. One inspector visited for 2 days and met with staff, learners and partners to examine in depth the quality of information, advice and guidance that's offered to learners. The inspection was generally very positive. Some of the highlights are set out in 1.3 of the report. All 27 national standards were met, some exceeded. There are also recommendations within the report, which is also included for members' information, set out in 1.4, and many of these recommendations are being looked at now. And I think it just explored some of the opportunities that could be used across the community and also the local authority for supporting career development and learning for some of our individuals in the community.
Thank you. This is an excellent report, and following on the very excellent Ofsted report into the Children's Service, it's another good news story, so I would like to formally send the congratulations to all the staff who've been involved in this in fact this report came out before, in this excellent report. Please could I ask for clarification? 1.4 does contain a number of areas for continuous improvement, but if we actually note the findings and the recommendations identified in the report, are we actually agreeing to the recommendations? Because a lot of them, it seems to me from reading the report, are, if you like, a work in progress. And I would just like clarification as to what we are actually agreeing to.
I think many of the recommendations of 1.4 will be dealt with internally through the team and through other members of the authority. I think in terms of what you're approving this evening, it's the sort of broader picture of the report rather than the actual detail of recommendations.
Councillor Bilsbury.
Yes, I share your doubts or questions on paragraph 1.4. I think at the end of the day we sort of need more details, but I would just prefer to note, though, I know this is a habit now, but I'm not entirely clear on these, and I would prefer to be cautious. I'm not neurotic over it, but, you know, I would propose note those.
I must admit, I was rather wondering where it actually said, for example, the potential benefits in combining the lifelong learning team with the council's learning and development team. I mean, that's quite a large area of work. Now, I know we should, as councillors, we shouldn't micromanage, but I just wondered where our responsibility lay. Councillor Bennett.
Well, Chairman, I've circled the words the council's learning and development team because I hadn't heard of that before, although I was very closely involved with lifelong learning a while back. And then on page 127, it sort of analyses it, and it looks something much smaller. Fifth paragraph down. 2 part-time assistants, learning and development, and the librarian. Well, is that the learning and development team? Or who is the learning and development team? Sorry, Joe.
The learning and development team currently sit outside the lifelong learning team, so aren't located down at Carn Gwavel. They're located in the town hall, and their main function is to provide support to local authority staff for training and development.
And how many are there?
I think it's 2 members of staff who do a job share, so it's 2.5 days a week.
Full-time.
1 full-time equivalent.
Hardly a team. So,
So whereas the lifelong learning team is generally more outward looking to support the community and local businesses, the learning and development team would be supporting the likes of myself and people who work on the waste site, people who work in the town hall and performing other council functions.
I mean, I'm fully in favour and supportive of it. It's just if the public know we've got a learning and development team, sounds a bit alarming, actually. But
Before, sorry, if I could make an exception and recognise the Vice Chair.
Oh, well done, yes, the light is on. Again, I'm going to really bicker with Gordon on the same level again. I mean, I'm looking at all of 1.4. All these things seem to be noble things to do. That seems to be the appropriate thing to do. And if the potential benefits turn out to be quite sizable, then it's going to have to come back to committee before anything happens. But it cannot go to committee until there's some level of investigation. Otherwise, it just stays at that sentence. So I actually think that we should, as a committee, approve and say, get on with it. And then when there's something to tell us, then we can make a decision. At this stage, noting is a little bit too vague, I think.
actually, the word used isn't noting or approving, it's accepting. We're just accepting the findings and recommendations.
Yes,
Yes,
that's slightly less than approve, isn't it? So I'm very happy. Are you happy to compromise us somewhere between note and approve, Councillor Billsborough?
Excuse me, Councillor Dale.
Thank you, Chairman. I rather agree with Councillor Billsborough, because if we accept these findings, we might be told at a later date, well, the learning group have been got rid of, the lifelong learning group, because you agreed to it on the 30th of June. And I think to say that we approve all these findings and recommendations is a bit strong for a report which is looking to explore certain areas before they're approved.
Might I suggest a way forward? Would everyone agree that it might be, we might be more comfortable with members accept the findings and recommendations identified in the Independent Matrix Accreditation Inspection Report and look forward to further progress and information to be brought to a later committee?
Well, I'm quite happy with that, as long as it doesn't impede what it says in the report. I think we spent a long time on semantics in our committees.
Well, it's standard practice, and you'll have this when the Ofsted report comes to you, standard practice that if a National Quality Assurance Organisation makes some recommendations, you usually accept them. What I would actually then like to do is suggest, and I think it's later in Joel's report, it says if any of those have a financial implication, we'll have to come back to you. Some of those will and some of them won't. Some of them are simply about a shift in working practices, but some of them might have a cost, and we'll come and let you know if that is the case. But we accept them because they know what they're talking about. Whether we can do much about it is another.
Chairman first. Chairman.
No, I agree with our officer. I think we accept these recommendations.
No,
I'm happy to withdraw my amendment. I was just trying to be helpful in order to proceed.
Chairman, very briefly, the reason why I'm cautious sometimes is, in the past when we've accepted something, and then sometime later something goes pear-shaped, they say, but you accepted it.
Fine.
I'm slightly
Chairman.
unclear as to whether this has been proposed or not, but if it hasn't already been proposed, then I will propose it.
I will second.
Fine. Right, we are going to go with the original recommendation which the chairman has now proposed and the chairman of council has proposed and the vice chairman of this committee has seconded. Can we have a vote on that, please? Those in favour, fine. Anyone against? Is anyone abstaining? One abstention. Thank you. The recommendation is carried.
Chairman, whatever the outcome of that, I think it should be noted too, recorded, what an excellent report the team received, and we should thank them for that.
Yes, indeed. I would very much like that minuted.
I would
I think
endorse
Councillor
that.
Bennett's seconding you on that one, but I would third it if it's possible to do that.
I think we all agree that congratulations are in order. Thank you. There are no Part 2 reports, there are no Part 3 reports, so the meeting is concluded at 7:27. Thank you.
Congratulations, Chairman. You've done the meeting in half the time I thought you would. Congratulations.